But the point is that if you have hydros in the middle belt and the middle regions of the country, and you have solar in the north and you have gas in the south, then you have a better stability for the energy mix.
I think bringing up all of this into the mix, what comes to mind is looking at that target which we discussed yesterday with Dr. Oke. And if you look at it, the minister has been speaking about how much he can get from all of the power plants in the country, but there's always been one sore issue, and it has to do with evacuation. What do you think the government is doing at the moment concerning all of those power from different power plants to getting them to homes and business areas?
Well, as you know, there is still the National Integrated Power Project, so the NIPP. The NIPP has quite a number of projects that when completed, should help evacuation. And most of these are in the corridors around the southeast. So around Calabar, Aloji, there are a couple of power plants there that are constrained, and there are major infrastructure transmission projects to take power out of that region. Once that is completed, we should see additional evacuation corridor of maybe about 1,000 from that area. But all over the country, there are projects being undertaken by NIPP and the Transmission Company of Nigeria, and we hope that with the release of the implementation of the budget, once it's cash backed, that some projects will be completed.
There's always been constraints which you mentioned, the gas constraint, line constraint, and even water management constraint. Which would you say is the biggest of them all in this whole effort to getting power sorted out in the country?
Well, I can say to you that currently, from the experiences of that what we see and what everybody knows is that there are different types of constraint, but the type of constraint that is very challenging is where you begin to see vandalism, because it's never part of anyone's plan of how to grow power. You do not go planning on how to stop vandalism, but what you're looking is how to complete projects and how to move forward. So that is where we face the challenge. That's where we faced a significant challenge, the gas infrastructure vandalism, or oil and gas infrastructure vandalism. That is the biggest challenge right now. If we did not have that, I believe that we're in a position to have moved beyond the 5,074 megawatts that we achieved in February.
What's the update, if you know? Tell us concerning fixing some of the ruptured pipes being destroyed by some militant groups.
The only thing I can tell you is there is a commitment within government to stabilize the region and fix those assets, but I do not have the definitive program for those.
Let me also bring up this part that popped up yesterday, and many have been talking about it for a while now. Many think that, well, the details cannot cover almost the whole area, that they have certain areas which they can't cover. And I think that's what you spoke about when you mentioned the independent and the mini-grid. Is there any plan, as it is now, that you have, say, states to have their own distribution companies such that they could generate power and then give it to companies or individuals who can also pay for this? Is that agreement in place?
There is none that I know of now, but definitely so many states have ventured into power generation. You have Akwa Ibom with the Ibom Power for 190. They've just expanded their license to generate more. Rivers made some investments in generation. So states can enter into generation. The issue of the mini-grid, like I talked about, is all about licensing and then also being able to put that. Let me just say that also, you have to note that these areas that are not connected to the grid are probably places where you have less financially viable grid. So there is also a need to work it out in such a way that while the grid is being put in place, that it is also is attractive for investments. But government will work, like I said, using some of its establishments to cushion that or to facilitate the establishment of such mini grids to extent possible.
What can you tell us about the expertise of some of those who are in charge of some of the power companies? For some Nigerians, they believe that some of them came into the fray with no foreknowledge of how to fix anything in the sector.
Yes. There are instances where we've seen lapses in competence, but especially when it comes to the interface with consumers on issues like metering. But in all, talking about it, there is deficit in capacity in the power sector. That is given. Some of the people who came didn't quite realize how much that is required, but most of the people have also built up and committed to making improvements, especially in the distribution space. It's a more challenging business. You have to have a lot of people, and then some of them are dealing with issues of change management. Some others just are trying to ramp up their capacity. So yes, there's a deficit in capacity, but it's also recognized. At the time that Pt.2 was being transferred, we observed that the employment or taking in new engineers had actually stopped for a long time, and that is why the training institute, NAPTIN, was also established to help grow capacity. So yes, there is some deficiency in capacity, but through the regulator and other government agencies, there is a push to get everyone to where is required. And we have contracts in place, people and regulations, and with the cost-reflective tariff, we get into a contract-based market, and sanctions will be much stronger on people who do not do what they need to do.
Talk about tariffs. Isn't it amazing that Nigerians are still talking about non-availability of the meters in their homes? Now, we're not talking about the prepaid meters, we're talking about smart meters. Is there any move to making sure that everyone and anyone gets that smart meter?
Yes, metering is on top of the agenda for the power sector. If you follow the news, when the CBN was providing this liquidity, one of the performance indices, metrics in the utilization of that money for distribution companies, metering ranks much higher than other things that they need to do. From the regulator's standpoint also, they agreed a metering plan with the distribution companies, and we expect that metering should progress rapidly now that we have the framework in place.
How well do you work, or what's your relationship like with the distribution companies?
Our relationship with distribution companies is primarily a contract-based one. We buy power from generation companies and we sell to distribution companies. They pay us and we transfer that money to generation companies. We're in the middle so that we can also make sure that not just that the distribution companies pay the GENCOs, but that the power received